Hello and welcome back. My name is Sydney Bell, and I'm the program lead with the Ontario Network of CAPC CPNP projects. And really delighted to introduce our next presenters for our virtual conference. And we have with us Taylor Labadie and Lillie Mills from Algoma Public Health, and they are going to talk to us about the Nurturing Algoma project. So over to you, Taylor and Lillie.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Sydney, for the introduction. Taylor and I this morning will be sharing our experience spearheading the Nurturing Algoma project. The project is an action taken by the child and youth serving agencies and organizations throughout the district of Algoma to build an upstream approach that promotes infant mental health and early child development. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the privilege that enables us to present today from within some of the traditional territories of the Robinson-Huron Treaty, Robinson-Superior Treaty, and Treaty 9 territories of the Anishinaabeg, Ililiwak, and Wisakode-Wiwiniwak. We see miigwech to thank Indigenous peoples for continuing to take care of this land from time immemorial. Today, we have broken our presentation into 5 segments that outline Algoma's experience in developing a partnership with the Infant and Early Mental Health Promotion Program at Toronto's Hospital for Sick Children and Queen's University to participate in building Canada's database of development infancy to 6, known as the CANDIS. Please note that the presentation does not speak specifically to working in or with the database. We are sharing the steps we and our community have taken in coming together as a broad collaborative to implement this initiative. In part 1, we will cover why this work is so important, how Taylor and I learned about and introduced CANDIS to our district partners, and how we obtained approval to move forward with the Nurturing Algoma initiative. Part 2 covers the details of steps that were taken to partner as an entire community with IMP and sick kids. Part 3 looks at early data, what we learned and wished we knew at the beginning of this journey. Part 4 discusses next steps as we move forward into the second year of Nurturing Algoma. And in Part 5, we will provide this group with some guidance or a checklist of sorts of what is needed to move forward with a similar approach in your own areas. So for part 1, we're going to share some background on how Nurturing Algoma was conceived and initiated. To help you understand the undertaking of collectively implementing Nurturing Algoma, it is important to illustrate a bit about who and where we are. Algoma District spans more than 48,000 square kilometers in northeastern Ontario and is known for stunning natural landscapes, including shorelines along Lakes Superior and Lake Huron. The district seat is in Sault Ste. Marie, originally known by First Peoples as Bawating, or the place of the rapids, as it's located where Lakes Huron and Superior merge. Our population has trended downward for the last several decades, but we're showing a rebound with projections for a considerable increase over the next few years. Over the past few decades, those of us who work with the prenatal and early years populations have been following the science and know that there is now abundant evidence showing how mental health begins in utero, and that experiences of the fetus into the earliest years of a child's development have lifelong impacts and effects. Many of us may have seen the video I'm about to show from the Alberta Wellness Initiative. In a nutshell, it will summarize why the CANDIS database and Nurturing Algoma are so important.
Modern science now tells us a great deal about how brains are built in childhood. Did you know that early childhood experiences actually change our brains in ways that affect our health throughout our lives?
We have a very kind of rich and rapidly growing science about early childhood development, and particularly how early experiences affect long-term outcomes in learning as well as physical and mental health. And we also have a huge amount of new research that is helping us understand how adversity early in life, and particularly the toxic stress that young children can experience, gets into the body and actually affects the developing architecture of the brain.
So experiences we have in our earliest years affect how our brains get built. That's important because the basic structures we develop as infants lay the foundation for more complex structures that develop as we grow. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain to provide a sturdy base for a lifetime of better health. On the other hand, if a child experiences a pileup of negative experiences, such as abuse or neglect, and if no caregiver is there to provide support, a sturdy brain foundation may never develop. That can lead to lifelong learning difficulties and health problems, including addiction and mental illness.
It affects the cardiovascular system, it affects the immune system, and so what this science is telling us is that we ignore the early years at our peril.
It's amazing to think that the experiences we have in our earliest years can affect our health for a lifetime. Since strong societies are made up of healthy individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all kids have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need to build healthy brains and bodies.
I know a lot of us have probably seen that video before, but Dr. Shonkoff's statement that we ignore the early years at our peril never leaves my brain. It's so true, and we need to step up as communities to make sure that the early years gets the attention that it needs. Because it's not only an individual or family responsibility to provide nurturing environments for our youngest residents, the responsibility lies also with the communities in which they are born and raised. As such, it is necessary to explore and implement population health initiatives that broadly impact the greatest number of people in the most effective way. We recognize that there are many variables to consider when looking at the resilience of an individual or at a community at large. Defined simply, resilience is the ability to adapt and stay healthy even under stress or hardship. Alberta Wellness uses the resilience scale, showing positive experiences like protective factors, healthy attachment, early identification of developmental concerns, and social support on one side, and negative experiences like risk factors, high family stress, violence, or neglect on the other. When the scale tips toward positive experiences, people are more likely to have good health and success. When tipping toward negative experiences, they're at higher risk for health problems. Genes also play a role, like the starting position of the scale's balance point, or the fulcrum. Some people are more sensitive to stress, while others can handle more without harm. However, supportive relationships and positive experiences can shift the fulcrum, helping people to be more resilient. It's never too late for anyone to improve their resilience skills, but early inception helps them better handle challenges throughout their life. So as the science of infant and early mental health grows, so do our opportunities to learn and partake in strategies to shift the focus of our approach to health, inclusive of mental health and overall development, more upstream. We want to support the resilience of the families we serve. In 2023, we learned about the Canadian Database of Development for Children under the age of 6 at the IMP Expanding Horizons Institute in Toronto. Information on this slide is taken directly from the IMP website, and we can see that the database was created through partnership between IMP, Queen's University, and community-based agencies across Canada. It houses anonymous data from the Ages and Stages questionnaires on a REDCap server maintained by the Centre for Advanced Computing at Queen's University. By creating a national database, policies and programs can be improved to better meet the needs of young children in society. Once familiarized with the Candace, the question became how to introduce this population health approach within Algoma. Algoma Public Health currently co-chairs and sits at our already established Sault Ste. Marie and Algoma Child and Family Network, which we will shorten to the CFN, and their affiliated Planning Action Table, which we will refer to as the PAT. The CFN table is comprised of executive leadership from child and youth serving organizations spanning 6 sectors. These include healthcare, community services, municipalities, Indigenous partners, education, and childcare. The network invites and welcomes any partner who aligns with their vision. All children born and growing up in Algoma will be supported to achieve their potential and their purpose to include and celebrate success while identifying issues and barriers that jointly affect children and families and combining resources and efforts to ensure that service delivery across all of Algoma is integrated and responsive. The PAT, where Taylor and I participate, includes management, supervisory, and frontline staff, and we take direction from the CFN as it applies to their mandate, provide feedback and recommendations back to the network, and undertake necessary actions and tasks to achieve their vision and goals. So, on return from the Expanding Horizons Institute, and I will mention here that this is a stellar biannual conference, and it's happening again this year, 2025, May 6th to 8th in Toronto, so please consider attending. I was compelled to translate this knowledge to the Healthy Growth and Development team and management here at Algoma Public Health. We were fortunate that our management team recognizes the importance of this initiative and requested we present at the PAT. We created a presentation that spoke to adverse and protective childhood experiences and resilience, and what a community may do to mitigate adversity and promote early mental health and child development, such as participating in Candace. The PAT was enthusiastic about the idea, so the larger CFN table was approached. Dr. Chayo Kulkarni and Dr. Karis Peterson-Katz from IMP presented the details of the database to our PAT and CFN. The CFN was engaged and requested a business case outlining the specifics of the initiative. APH took the role as lead agency, and Taylor and I were tasked with creating the business case. We will speak to the details of these steps coming shortly. In the spring of 2024, we presented the business case to the PAT and CFN. Our community network was excited by the prospect of the vast yet feasible and incredibly meaningful undertaking, and by the early fall of 2024, the Memorandum of Understanding between the research team and the Sault Ste. Marie and Algoma Child and Family Network was signed. Instrumental to the buy-in from our network was the writing and presenting of the business case. This 20-page document provided a comprehensive background, objectives, and scope of the Nurturing Algoma project, detailing the ASQ screening instruments and the Candace. The 5-phase implementation plan specified the steps the project would follow, including how this would be accomplished and the supports and resources required to achieve each phase. Additionally, a project budget and schedule were outlined, as well as the responsibilities of the CFN and each participating community partner. The business case stressed the importance of participating in the initiative, outlining the beneficial future implications for Algoma children, families, and the community as a whole. Detailed in our business case were the 3 main objectives of Nurturing Algoma. The first is to integrate the use of ASQs across Algoma District. At the outset of the project, some agencies were familiar with and/or implementing ASQs, but the science informs that early screening leads to more optimal outcomes. As such, our main goal is to help early years providers in Algoma feel confident in completing ASQ screens and accessing resources for infant mental health and early development. We also want them to know how to refer families to the right services and offer support when needed. This will help improve the well-being of infants and young children across our community. The second objective is to complete and enter as many screens as possible into the database. It is possible for any single organization or agency to participate individually in the Canvas, but through a population health lens, it was desirable to engage the entire region to acquire a more fulsome perspective of how Algoma's children are doing. Our third objective is to access the data gathered as a resource to advocate for family-centered early intervention. We all recognize gaps in support and service for infants and children in our communities and across Canada. Access to data will showcase the importance of securing additional funding and services for early years support and will bolster our push for more substantial financial backing and resources. So now that I've shared some background on why and how Nurturing Algoma began and unfolded, I'm going to pass it over to Taylor, who will go more into depth about how the project is being implemented and to discuss our early data and insights.
Thank you, Lillie. So let's move on to discuss how we actually implemented this project in our community. So through discussions with and recommendations from the research team, our business case to the CFN proposed that we complete ASQ screening by way of bulk scanning periods. Bulk scanning periods are designated months where a screening blitz occurs, and we focus on screening as many children as possible. Outside of these months, screening still takes place, but it is not for the purposes of being entered into the database. Our business case outlined that the bulk scanning periods would be October 2024 and April and October of 2025. Two tools that helped us to stay on track while managing this project were a Gantt chart and an activity logic model. The Gantt chart allowed us to schedule, track, and communicate deadlines with participating agencies, as well as with the CFN. The activity logic model was a great way to track specific objectives, resources needed, and project indicators for each phase of the implementation plan. As Lillie mentioned, the business case developed for the CFN highlighted a 5-phase project implementation plan for participation in the Canvas research project. This implementation plan outlined exactly what we needed to do, when, and for how long. The following slides will provide a review of each phase of this implementation plan. Phase 1 included the completion of a community environmental scan to determine how many staff members across community agencies had or required ASQ training. An environmental scan is a collection of information to review what is going on in the community and identify gaps and needs. So specifically, we wanted to know, what is the status of ASQ training in Algoma? The results of the scan indicated that 30 frontline providers were trained across Algoma. Of these 30 providers, 19 had received formal training from IMP. Prior to the launch of Nurturing Algoma, 7 sites among 3 agencies were offering ASQ screening. Phase 2 focused on ASQ training needs. 2 agencies each funded 1 staff member to complete the Virtual Training of Trainers program through Brooks Publishing. This training certified them as ASQ trainers. Between the 2 trainers, 4 training sessions were offered to frontline service providers who were from an agency who had formally signed on to the Nurturing Algoma project. Over the course of these 4 community training offerings, 39 frontline providers received ASQ training, which more than doubled our number of trained providers to 63. For the purposes of this project, we detailed the options for ASQ training in our business case, outlining the different costs and timeframes associated with each. The option that was approved by our CFN that met the budget and the time constraint that we were working within was the virtual option through Brooks Publishing. Ideally, our goal is for all frontline screeners to receive the formal ASQ training from IMP, which includes the developmental support plans. This training is the gold standard, and our hope is that as funding becomes available, more frontline staff from across Algoma will have the opportunity to participate in this training. Phase 3 was bulk scan planning. APH and participating agencies prepared for the October bulk scan through discussions around agency resources, staffing, so who was aligned to the project at each site, and who we wanted to reach. So we specifically targeted children who were 0 to 3, and we welcomed children 4 to 5. Resources were developed to help agencies with the planning process, such as a startup checklist, screener guides, and a referral and support resources. The planning process emphasized a need for further documentation between agencies. This led to the creation of an additional MOU between the CFN and each participating agency, as well as a data sharing agreement between APH and participating agencies. We will provide more detail on the components of each of these documents in the coming slides. A project website was developed and housed on the APH website as a resource for parents and caregivers. A project email was also created to share with the broader community for any questions about nurturing Algoma. Social media posts and recruitment posters were shared with partners and throughout our community. Phase 3 also included the data entry training with IMP and core ethics training for Lillie and I. As I mentioned, the planning phase emphasized a need for further documentation between all participating agencies. So a requirement to participating in the Candace project is the signing of the MOU with Dr. James Reynolds from Queen's University. Given our community approach, the CFN signed this agreement with Dr. Reynolds on behalf of all participating agencies in Algoma. Because the CFN is not a legal entity and has no authority over the conduct of individual agencies, an additional MOU was created between the CFN and each participating agency in nurturing Algoma. This MOU outlined the specific roles and responsibilities of the CFN, each participating agency, and APH for the roles of data entry clerks and project coordinators. This MOU was created using the original project MOU as a template. For the month of October, we had 10 MOUs that were signed. APH was taking the responsibility for data entry for all of Algoma, with Lillie and I as authorized data entry personnel. For this reason, it was determined that a data sharing agreement be created to outline specifics of data format and transfer, storage and security, retention, use, and confidentiality. The creation of this data sharing agreement was a challenge for Lillie and I, as we did not have any reference documents to assist us with this process. This required us to consult with our data team, our epidemiologist, privacy officer, and the research team to ensure that we had addressed all necessary components. It's important to note that the MOU and the DSA only need to be signed once for coverage for the entirety of the Nurturing Algoma project, which will be completed at the end of 2025. So here is a snapshot of some of the resources that we had developed for participating agencies. On the right, you can see the startup checklist that was provided to each agency, some screenshots in the middle of our family information package, and a sample social media post on the top left. Phase 4 was the administration of the bulk scan, which represents our screening blitz from October 1st to 31st. During the bulk scan, 10 sites and 19 screeners actively participated across Algoma to collect ASQ screens. There were a few sites that had signed on to the project, but were not ready to conduct screens for entry into the database. Most sites had both the ASQ3 and ASQ SE2 screens available for families. Data entry began in November 2024 and was completed in January 2025. So as part of the data sharing agreement, participating agencies were required to select one of two outline methods for data entry. So to either have Lillie and I visit their site to enter the data or securely transport their data to APH. Most sites had requested that we attend their site for data entry, and this was scheduled by myself and Lillie. As for Lillie and I, we were responsible for de-identifying study participants by assigning them a study ID number to be anonymously entered into the database. An ID tracking log was provided by the research team that links real names with study ID numbers. This tracking log is only accessible to authorized data entry staff, so myself and Lillie, and is stored separately from the ASQ data on a secure server here at APH. The tracking log also provides a quality control capacity to ensure that a child who may have had a screen done at multiple agencies during the bulk scanning period is not entered as a duplicate during data entry. Data entry was completed as per the training provided by the research team. Phase 5 was the evaluation of the bulk scan and an opportunity for us to review the entire project. After the October bulk scan, 72 unique children across Algoma received one or both screening options. 63 ASQ3s and 56 ASQ SE2 screens were completed. Our sample was small, but was represented by every postal code across the Algoma district. Given the geographic size of our district, the challenge is often making sure that we reach each community. And for this project, that was not the case. Within our first bulk scanning period, we achieved representation across the entire district. Our net was cast wide, and now we're focusing on building it tall in 2025. According to the 2021 census profile, there were approximately 4,800 children between the ages of 0 to 4 in Algoma. So based on this number and the number of children that we entered into the database in October, we reached a very small percentage of our 0 to 4 population. So due to our small sample size, we are not yet able to draw any conclusions about the children in Algoma. As this number increases and our reach expands, the results will become more reflective of what is really going on with children under the age of 6 in Algoma. Additionally, as part of the Nurturing Algoma evaluation, interviews were held with a sample of 7 screeners from across the district. The interview consisted of 9 questions that inquired about their experience and insights regarding their involvement in Nurturing Algoma and any recommendations they had for future bulk scanning periods. The next few slides will highlight some preliminary results from the October bulk scan and the examples of the kinds of data that we can pull from Canvas. So here you can see the summary score interpretation of the ASQ SE2. So as a reminder, 56 children had an ASQ SE2 screen completed in October. So based on this sample of children, 77% fell below the cutoff, meaning they were typically developing, and 16% were above the cutoff and at a risk for delay. The next 2 slides will highlight some results of 2 of the ASQ3 domains. So here shows the graph of the communication score interpretation. As I had mentioned, 63 children had an ASQ3 completed in October. Of these 63 children, 84% were above the cutoff, meaning they were typically developing, and 13% fell below the cutoff and were at a risk for delay. This graph illustrates the fine motor score interpretation. Of the 63 children, 77% were typically developing, 16% scored close to the cutoff, showing that monitoring was needed, and 7% were at a risk for delay. So it's really exciting for us to see the kinds of data that we can pull from Canvas and the potential for what this data can mean for our community. We're hopeful that as we expand our efforts in the promotion of Nurturing Algoma in 2025, that more children will receive an ASQ screen, which will provide us with a more representative sample or snapshot of how children under 6 are doing here in Algoma. So after reviewing all the responses, these were the key findings from the screener interviews. So this chart highlights both the good and the challenging aspects of participation in Nurturing Algoma, in addition to some suggestions for moving forward into 2025. So most screeners had a positive experience, felt prepared for the bulk scanning period, and found caregivers to be very receptive to the project, with all screeners recognizing the importance of this work. There were some challenges in the processes of collecting information for the purposes of the research project, which included the short time frame of our bulk scan period, incorrect screen selection due to not using the ASQ calculator to verify, and lengthy consent forms. So this suggested a need for some educational materials, better promotion of Nurturing Algoma, and consistent use of the ASQ calculator. So now that we have reviewed our implementation plan for October of 2024, I will pass it back to Lillie to offer some insights and reflections on what we've learned throughout the process so far.
Thanks, Taylor. So we have shared a lot of information so far about what went into the planning and execution of the first of our 3 bulk scanning periods. Now I want to talk about key actions and takeaways as we wrapped up 2024 and our plan for our 2025 screening blitzes in April and October. So, informed by knowledge translation theory, feedback gleaned face-to-face during data entry, and the interviews Taylor conducted with our frontline screeners, we recognize the importance of keeping everyone in the project up to date. We want to ensure everyone is connected to the work and understands the value of their role, in addition to accessing their expertise and knowing what the clients are seeking and what our community needs. In January, we hosted a review and reflection for Nurturing Algoma. It was a face-to-face event with a virtual option available for our colleagues joining from outlying areas of the district. Taylor and I detailed the background for the project, including evidence of the importance of promotion and intervention within the early years population. 4 themes arose from the feedback from the October bulk scan, and attendees at the review and reflection were asked to prioritize areas for consideration when planning the April scanning period. As you can see, number 1 priority is to increase community knowledge and awareness. Screeners shared that some families are reluctant to participate in screening as they see it as negative, or that we're looking for something wrong, or they just don't know what it is and they're reluctant to ask. Second on the list is to increase our screening rates. We are all very interested in reaching as many children as possible, as early as possible, and in seeing a sample that is sizable enough to represent our population. Following this and directly tied to the first 2 priorities are engaging more community partners and building the relationships that currently exist. We want to identify and engage those who are not at the table but need to be. Following prioritizing the goals, the collaborative brainstormed ways we could address each of those identified areas. We're focusing on increasing general knowledge and awareness about infant mental health, early development, and screening among our communities. If we expect our families to participate in ASQ screening, we need to share the message that milestones are for celebrating, and screening is a way to discover where your child shines. When a family does have a concern about development, we want to promote the benefits of early detection, support, and intervention. Our collaborative partners are attending community-based events, such as our local Bumps and Bundles Baby Expo, to promote each other's services as well as Nurturing Algoma. The group also recognized that we would like to increase screening rates to gather a more fulsome and reflective data set, which also means we need to train more screeners and expand opportunities. During the October Blitz, most agencies offered ASQ screening to their caseload or regular clients only. For April, we've created and will promote a full-month schedule of screening opportunities available to the public. Additionally, our screening agencies have partnered up to support each other's events. For example, our local library has only 1 ASQ trained staff person, and other agencies are available to attend as needed They're events that are open to the public to support their capacity. Another priority is to engage more community partners. We recognize that most agencies across the early years sector are working at their maximum output, and it is necessary to creatively explore ways to reduce barriers and engage agencies we would love to see at the table. We have created invitation and information packages to provide to community partners who may be considering participating. If an agency expresses interest, we have information ready to share and always offer to meet for further consultation. Our ASQ screeners are employed in various sectors and settings. Each brings a unique and valuable perspective, and we must ensure that everyone's voice is heard. To bolster the longevity of the partnerships created through Nurturing Algoma, it's important to foster these relationships. Following the review and reflection, the ASQ Screener Community Message Board was initiated. Here we share information and resources, and screeners can ask a question and receive support from the entire ASQ community. We have also established an outreach and event planning subcommittee comprised of agency champions. At this table, we are getting to know each other while working on promotional materials and social media campaigns to increase community knowledge and awareness. Our most recent endeavor is the creation of Milestone Monday. The committee submitted and voted on ideas for captions and images for this collaborative social media campaign. On each Monday in March, every Nurturing Algoma agency will post the exact same hashtag Milestone Monday to show solidarity and collaboration toward the importance of addressing early mental health and development. In addition, we're creating an informational postcard and resources to be shared on the Nurturing Algoma webpage. With all of this work underway, we're gearing up to promote our April 1st to 30th bulk scan, while simultaneously onboarding new partners and gearing up for data entry and the evaluation of this blitz. Our 2025 plans include increasing screening opportunities for families of Algoma. To this effect, we have organized and added training dates for participating and prospective partners and have increased our partnership by 3 agencies since outset in the fall of 2024. And we continue our consultation with several others. As you can see, we've tripled the number of screening locations from 10 in October to 30 in April of 2025, and the number of trained screeners from 63 to 90. And we anticipate this number will continue to grow based on expressed interest. We will continue to develop and modify strategies to support ASQ screeners with the ASQ screening guide that outlines key steps for screening for the Candace database particularly, as well as our screening message board. The outreach and event planning group meets regularly to work on promotion and awareness campaigns. Taking ideas from this table, then creating, publishing, and disseminating the resources through social media, hard copies, and through the webpage comprises another significant aspect of the work of this project. Our intent is to continue to leverage the strength built through this community-wide action as we move toward making infant and early years screening a routine practice across Algoma District and beyond, to the benefit and increased well-being of our youngest residents. We are beginning to plan next steps toward future initiatives that continue our partnership with IMP through the development of infant and early mental health care pathways. We're excited to see how 2025 unfolds and how Algoma's data may enrich our understanding of how our kids are doing, guiding our programming and services. We are excited to see how it may influence planning, policy development, and decision making. We look forward to ongoing opportunities to continue sharing our experience to assist other partners and the broader community. Additionally, we're eager to build on the foundation of this project that benefits the entire early years population.
So as we wrap up our presentation today, we wanted to leave you all with some final thoughts on building community capacity, as well as provide a summary of some of the items we discussed that may be helpful for some of you when considering starting a similar initiative with your community. After reflecting on our process so far and considering the evaluation of one completed bulk scanning period, we have identified some key insights on community collaboration when considering a project such as this one. The first is community engagement. So from this experience, we have noticed that action-oriented plans seem to motivate community engagement. The action-oriented nature of nurturing Algoma has re-engaged existing PAT members as well as sparked interest in agencies who were not previously affiliated with the CFN. Participation in the project also highlighted the absence of many important partnerships. We also can't stress enough the importance of having committed staff to take on this project. The lead agency must be on board to provide support to staff of participating agencies. Lillie and I are very fortunate that Algoma Public Health recognizes the importance of this population health approach and allows us to take on the tremendous time commitment and resource requirements as leads for this project. The next is confidentiality. Our community-wide strategy emphasized the importance of ensuring the confidentiality of our Algoma families, which led to the creation of the data sharing agreement and the additional memorandum of understanding. Lastly, leading this initiative has come with the navigation of many complex systems. Keeping up with the research team and their REB requirements, understanding the understanding the roles and operations of participating agencies, and obtaining necessary signatures from leadership are a few examples of this. In the next few slides, we have provided a summary of what is involved in each role of nurturing Algoma as some guidance and considerations for other communities when exploring a similar initiative. For the project leads or a lead agency, some of our role has included facilitating the creation, editing, and dissemination of project-related documents, overseeing and coordinating the project schedule, and consults with prospective partners. For data entry personnel, roles include de-identifying study participants and assigning study ID numbers, use of the ID tracking log, and entering anonymous data into Canvas. As part of our community-wide collaboration in Canvas, the CFN signs the MOU with Queens on behalf of all participating agencies in the Algoma District. For agencies who wish to participate in nurturing Algoma, there is a requirement that they have an active membership with the CFN and PAT. Each agency must also sign the MOU between the CFN and their agency, as well as the data sharing agreement with APH. Agencies must consult with the project leads to review roles, responsibilities, and logistics of the project. Each agency is responsible for following the research project requirements regarding the collection and storage of data. Lastly, agencies are to identify a champion that serves as the contact person for scheduling and promotion. So here we've provided a list of screener training and support that we provide to a screener when their agency has signed on to the Nurturing Algoma project. They will receive an ASQ screener how-to guide, our referral pathway, a list of primary care access points, free ASQ training if needed, access to our ASQ screener message board, and links to ASQ resources. Screeners will also be invited to join our outreach and event planning workgroup where we plan events and develop promotional messaging. So Lillie and I would like to thank Sydney and all of those who are involved in the CAPC CPMP 2025 Network Conference for inviting us to present today. Our contact information is posted here for any questions related to nurturing Algoma, and we've also included the contact information for Dr. Karis Peterson-Katz, who is the lead for the Candace project, if there are any questions pertaining to getting involved in this project. So once again, we want to thank you all for your time and attention, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Taylor, and thank you, Lillie. Actually, we've got quite a few questions, which is really great. So let me just start sharing them with you. The first one was there any additional funding secured in order to conduct this project for training costs, staffing costs, etc.?
Okay, so to date, there has not been any additional funding. A lot of the resource funding has been shared between the partners that are participating in the Candace project. The two agencies that paid for Train the Trainer, so Algoma Public Health Train One, and then Algoma Family Services, it's another agency in our partnership, each paid out of their own budgets to do the Train the Trainer. So there's been some shared costing among agencies participating, but there hasn't been any additional funding. We have made some requests to the Child and Family Network to see if there's been some additional funding available, but we haven't been able to secure that yet. And we are exploring opportunities for some grants and whatnot as well. But to date, not hasn't happened.
Okay. Next question. Was there a consent created for the clients/participants to cover the data sharing agreement? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so with the consent that's provided from the research team, we had revised that document to suit the needs of how we were conducting the project here in Algoma. So it was put into that consent form what the process would be like here. And then outside of the data sharing agreement between APH and the agency, there was no other consent forms or anything that a family had to fill out.
Okay. And then just confirming, you had shared some findings. So the question was just confirming that the findings you shared were based on the first assessment, right? Now, because you're going into the second one.
Yes,
right?
so those are just
Okay.
the results from 2024.
Okay. And next question is, what platform did you use for the message board?
So the platform that we're using for the message board is WebEx through Cisco
Okay.
and Bell. So we have an
Right.
account with that through Algoma Public Health. So we did consult with our IT department, and they did some looking around and searching around for us and determined that the WebEx would be the most user-friendly opportunity for our partners, because there are blocks on the Teams platform that makes it more difficult for external partners to share information
Gotcha.
and network on a virtual platform. So the security of WebEx and the ease of access for external partners was the reason we chose WebEx.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Can you share when the data results will be available to be used by CFN members for service planning? Got a lot of questions for you, and there's more coming up in the chats.
That's great.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned in the presentation, right now, our sample was very small. So it's not representative of the children yet in nurturing Algoma. So there was an evaluation report that was written that was provided to the CFN and PAT that shared some of these findings. But we're really hopeful that in 2025, now that we've expanded promotion and we have an increased number of staff and agencies participating, that the number will increase and we'll be able to more accurately share some results that reflect children ages 0 to 6 here.
Thank you. How was the confidentiality conveyed to the participants' clients?
The research body,
yeah,
the research body provides an extensive package for addressing confidentiality with the clients. It's passed through their research ethics board through Queen's and IMP, and there are two different levels of confidentiality that need to be addressed with the family. So it's very well covered once you're signed on with the Candace. Anything beyond that, so any for confidentiality, say if you decide to make a referral, if there's a concern identified, you would follow your own agency's policy. But for actually inputting data into the database, we strictly follow the guidelines as laid out by the research team.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Who provides the free training? I'm assuming that's the ASQ training?
Yeah, so the two individuals that completed the virtual training of trainers program that were certified as ASQ trainers, they provide the training for free, and that was a decision based on the two agencies that had sent those two individuals for training.
Okay. Another question is, did you face challenges with respect to client willingness to participate in screens and have their screens shared with MOU partners?
Yes, so as I said, that's all disclosed to clients who wish to participate in the Canvas. So if a client learns about the Canvas and learns how the data is shared and learns that their data is going to be input, and they would still like to have a screen completed, but they don't want to have that sharing, they certainly have the opportunity to say, no, thank you. I want just the screening. I'm not going to participate in the database. However, we did have pretty good uptake as far as clients. Most who were approached and talked to about it were receptive by the end of the discussion.
Well, I appreciate what you said. There was an acknowledgement that there might have been an assumption that, it was sort of a negative thing, that if you're asking me to participate, that that means you think something is wrong. And actually noted what you said. What was it? See how discover where your child shines, right? Is a
Yes.
beautiful reframing of that
Yeah.
to have people realize it's not a negative focus necessarily. Right. Sorry, I've lost my words, but yes.
Yeah, and it's fun to note too, Sydney, for that we had it nurturing Algoma, growing through ages and stages, and then our collaborative decided that it needs to be more positive, and they voted and had a consensus that was the phrase that we were going to use. Bright beginnings, discover where your child shines, to just make sure that everyone understands we're not here to look for red flags. We want to celebrate and do the best we can to promote optimal outcomes for everyone.
Excellent.
Sydney, sorry, can I just also clarify something from the last question? Sorry. So just to clarify, if a child had a screen done at one of our participating agencies, only Lillie and I, as data entry personnel, actually see that child's screen outside of that specific agency that the child had it done there. So the only information that's shared with other participating agencies is anonymous. So that specific detail is outlined in the consent form.
And I imagine it's like aggregate data. It's not, you're not sharing the sort of the specific. It's like you're sort of a summary of what we're seeing. Okay. Yeah. Another question by Kristen. Have you found any challenges in using the Brooks Publishing Train the Trainer model? I have heard there are some limitations in who the trainers can provide training to. Is that a question you're able to share feedback on?
Lillie can jump in at any point too. So we wondered the same thing, but our trainers, when they went to do or virtually did this training, our trainer asked and explicitly told the trainer like what was going on in Algoma, that this was a project, and it was confirmed to her that for anyone who's participating in this project, they are able to provide training to, but anyone outside of that is not able to participate in training. So because it's a project-based training, it was told to us that that was acceptable. Do you have anything to add, Lillie, about that?
Yeah, so our trainers, our folks who are trained as trainers would not be able to use this. They wouldn't be able to offer training on the side or charge money for it or anything. They can only train people who are active participants in the Nurturing Algoma project with a signed MOU.
Understood. Okay. I think that's all the questions I see in the chat, but are there other, would anybody like to unmute and say hello, or any other questions for Taylor and Lillie before we say goodbye? Got a few more minutes. You can just unmute yourself or use the raise hand function, or feel free to plop it in the chat. Okay, I think we've run our gamut of questions. So I want to take this moment to again show gratitude, and I'm seeing some gratitude coming in the chat as well. Lillie and Taylor for sharing a really great overview of this project, which is quite inspiring in terms of community collaborations and sort of navigating, creating those partnerships, and obviously the passion for the work and for the families and the children is driving you both. So that's really fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Oh, go ahead, Lillie.
I was just going to say it's driving us both, and it's also driving our entire community. Like the excitement and passion that we've seen come up through our different collaborative tables it's just phenomenal. We're all united in creating this opportunity for the kids and the families of Algoma, and it's just wonderful. Like Taylor said earlier, action is meaningful to people. They don't want to talk about things. They want to actually have something to do, and this has provided that opportunity. So we're so grateful for the Candace database being created because it's something that's been missing for so long. Other than that, we have the early development instrument, which kids are getting screened once they reach school, but it's not, we've already surpassed such a huge chunk of the developmental phase for kids.
Maybe not as nimble and responsive as it could be if we're thinking a little earlier.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share, and we welcome questions through our emails as well to follow up.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Lillie. I'm going to end the recording now. Let me just do that.